As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Ron.
And I'm Brian.
And this is our review of Freddy vs. Jason, starring Robert Englund, Ken Kirzinger, Monica Keena, and Jason Ritter. Directed by Ronnie Yu. Released in 2003 in a budget of $34 million. Grossed $114.9 at the box office. So we're back, guys. We've done the entirety of the Friday the 13th films, including the remake, and the Nightmare on Elm Street films, including the remake. Circle back around here for another team up. We started this Shocktober with The Last House on the Left, regrettably, and now we're back to end it, hopefully not regrettably, with Freddy versus Jason. And man, this thing took forever to get together, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I do distinctly remember this coming out in 2003 in theaters and going to see it. So, do either of you remember when this came out?
I watched it for the first time last night.
All right.
I remember when it came out, and I actually think I did go see it at the movie theater. But the thing I primarily remember is that this was the last movie where I remember people going out and buying like a movie soundtrack.
The new metal soundtrack that is Freddy versus Jason. Oh, wow. So,
yeah, riding around in my friend's Buick.
Of course. We're going to talk about the soundtrack for sure. But yeah, I remember the talk of this on the internet, of course, for years and years and years, really ever since Jason Goes to Hell, because there was that teaser at the end, and then we waited 15 years for it to ever do anything. And I mean, I read somewhere where they spent something like $6 million on 18 scripts, and they finally got to something they thought they could film, and then they put it in turnaround again, and they finally put this together. In the meanwhile, you had Jason Goes to Hell come out, and Sean Cunningham got so frustrated with how long this was taking that he put out Jason X so that people wouldn't forget about Jason. And I'm like, well, that was a bad idea, because I think we all wanted to after that, but. I mean, good. It had been a long time. When I saw this in theaters, it had been quite some time since I had purposely seen either of the franchises. Now, I'd seen Jason X, but I didn't remember anything about it. I hadn't gone back to like the central canon of the stories, if you will, for a long time. So I went into it, I remember, just cold, with some friends in the small town I was living in, and I had a blast with it. I thought, okay, this is cool. And then I remember buying the DVD, and I think I've watched it maybe once or twice since. I see it on, every Halloween season and stuff like that, and sometimes at random times, and I'll watch a few minutes of it or whatever. But until we did this review, it had been a long time since I sat down to watch this from start to finish, and I really only remembered about half of it. It came to me as I was watching this.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that, since I have every movie channel, it's always playing somewhere, and I never feel like I need to bother to stop and watch it.
It is one of those things that I think once you've seen it, it's kind of, there it is. It's not a lot to go back and figure out about it, is there? It's not a big mystery. So, we've done this kind of thing before on Film Strip, not you guys, but Nick and I dipped our toes in this back with the Alien retrospective. We went ahead and did the Alien versus Predator 2 piece there, and to varying degrees those films work and fail, and so I've always seen this as people try to do this. They're trying to recapture the old Universal monster mashups, right? Like Frankenstein versus Dracula and the Wolfman versus the Mummy and all that stuff. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take these two icons and throw them together. And on the heels of this came all these rumors about what was going to be next. So you had Ash from Evil Dead was going to take on Freddy and Jason. And then you had, the weirdest one was you had Michael Myers and Pinhead from Hellraiser, and it was going to be called Halloween. And I thought, what a terrible idea. Thank goodness they never got that off the ground. And I mean, they've done these kind of things forever. And the Godzilla movies are, notorious for this. Even the newest one was pretty much a Godzilla versus two random monsters you don't care about. And here's Bryan Cranston for 4 minutes. So the studios do this all the time to try to put both these franchises together. And I could see the difficulty in trying to get these two in the same room. Like they have very different MOs. I mean, for folks that maybe have just been following one series or the other, I'm going to put it to both of you. If you had to sum up the Jason MO or the Freddy MO in like one sentence, what would it be? Brian, we'll go to you first. The Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy MO is what?
Good question. It used to be scary demon monster. Now it became comedic horror. I mean, that's all he does is make jokes, right? And kill people. He's out to avenge his murder by killing the children of the people who killed him.
Right.
So he's like a vengeance demon.
He's the it of every struggling stand-up comedian.
Wow.
That's go ahead putting it there. So, okay, Ron, then on the other hand, what's the Jason?
Well, the Jason MO is pretty simple. He likes to murder teenagers who hang out by Crystal Lake. And if they're topless or smoking pot or topless and smoking pot or neglecting children, so much the better. He's gone from baghead to hockey mask to melted by radioactive waste, but throughout every movie, his MO is basically to chop everyone up.
Yeah, with usually large carving instruments. I mean, that's the thing. So, if you're going to put horror icons together, I should say, I could see why you'd want to go with these two because they have the one thing in common: the feeling or sense of that from their point of view, they're trying to avenge something that happened to them. Jason drowned, and then his mother killed all these people, and then she got decapitated. So he's always like chasing either the people that killed her or the people at the camp who shouldn't be there because they neglect children like him. Freddy was a child molester and murderer who got off on a technicality, who got vigilante to death, and so he's wanting revenge for that. Now, whether that's justified or not, whatever. But that's what they share in common, is that they both have that. The difference, of course, is that Freddy has the mouth to go with it, and as you alluded to, Brian, and Ron, you capped up there, he became this stand-up comedian. We tried to make Freddy funny and things. And I think the interesting thing for me about this is trying to figure out where they want us as fans of these series to pick up in this movie. What are we continuing from? I think it's pretty easy. We're continuing from the end of Freddy's Dead with Freddy because he's blown up and he's sent to hell, and that's where he is at the beginning of this, and his powers are completely drained. I'm not sure what version of Jason we're picking up on. It's somewhere between part 6 and 8, I think. But he's not in the bottom of a lake. I don't know if it's the Jason from part 9 because that seems, I don't know, it didn't look right. I mean, they replaced Kane Hodder. What Jason are we supposed to be picking up on here, Ron?
Oh, this is more Freddy versus Roy.
We're picking up on Dead Roy.
Yeah, sure. Roy looked like a child molester, so maybe he and Freddy had something in common while they were roasting in hell.
Well, he definitely was a child neglector, so, as we learned in part 5. But, oh, man. Well, I guess we should get into it, guys, and go forward. So which one of you wants the plot summary?
I'll take the credit. Freddy Krueger's power has diminished since he was last vanquished, and the town of Springwood is no longer afraid of him. Freddy enlists the help of Jason Voorhees, whom he resurrects from hell, to start a new killing spree in the town, hoping to heighten their fears and feed Freddy with the power he will need to once again terrorize them in dreams. But Jason won't stop killing Freddy's intended victims, and this doesn't sit well with the Dream Demon. Along the way, a group of plucky kids get caught in the middle of these two, and they're all picked off until only Laurie and Will are left to see the final showdown. Jason and Freddy engage in violent combat, and just when it looks like Freddy has the upper hand, literally, Jason impales him with Freddy's own severed arm, and Laurie decapitates Freddy with both killers sinking to the bottom of Crystal Lake as she and Will escape the decimated campsite. We see Jason emerge holding Freddy's severed head, but Freddy winks at the audience in a final shot as credits roll.
Well, that's a good summary there, Ron, to walk us through a film that comes out of the gate like a shot and wastes no time getting right to it. I will credit this movie for one thing. They didn't waste any time setting it up. The first thing that I wrote down was that I love the little musical cue, the mix of the themes in the opening there. The little Nightmare on Elm Street piano thing with the thing from Friday the 13th. I thought, well, that needed to happen. That was well done, and so that was a good start for me. And we get Freddy's opening montage, and it's pretty much like a greatest hits of Freddy Krueger, right? Like, I've argued for years that this is a Nightmare on Elm Street film with Jason in it. But I want to get you two's point of view on that. How do you feel about it? What's the setting for this film? Are we in a Freddy movie with Jason in it, or are we in a Jason movie that has Freddy looming over it?
Personally, I think we're in a Freddy movie with Jason in it because Freddy's kind of the one pulling all the strings.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in a Freddy movie with Jason in it. If only because they have the rights to all of the footage from all of the Freddy movies. So we get, number one, we get the Freddy voiceover. Number two, we get the greatest hits montage. Number three, we get actual Robert Englund playing Freddy Krueger again. Say what you want to about the relative merits of the giant Canadian stuntman that they've got to play Jason. And I'm sure Ken Kurtzinger is a great guy, but he's no Kane Hodder. Right? You can't, like, you're having the original Freddy, Robert Englund, reprise his role, and then you're throwing an afterthought to this new guy, which I get that lots of people have worn the Roy mask, but Kane Hodder is still I think in the eyes of most of the Friday the 13th fans, Kane Hodder is still the definitive Jason.
He's definitely the most characterized of the Jasons. Like, he gave those latter films, which, let's face it, none of the scripts in those are really any good. He at least gave the performance something that you wanted. You wanted to see what he would do with it, the physicality of it, the humor that he could bring to it, without speaking, of course, and all that. And he had a physical presence, too. I don't know all the stuff they say they wanted somebody taller than Robert Englund. I'm like, he's taller than Robert Englund. Like, if you've ever seen them together, plus he's huge. But you're right. I think you're both dead on, is that this is a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 8, if you really want to call it. It just happens to have Jason moonlighting in it, and it is a Jason. It could be Roy's, for all we know. Maybe Freddy took a wrong turn at Albuquerque in hell and resurrected Roy instead. You know, I don't know. Maybe that explains a few things. But no, the opening montage, you're right, is all about Freddy, because even though they own the rights to Friday the 13th and all that, all the footage stuff would cost them extra money, and New Line sure enough wasn't going to pay Paramount anything else. It wasn't like the last two Friday the 13th movies made a lot of money or anything, so they had some things to come back on. So that's for sure. So now it just dawned on me here for a minute, Brian, you probably got to be sitting over there going, "Who's Roy?"
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Ron, what, you want to give me the 30-second primer on that? Because, Brian, you've never seen any Friday the 13th films, right?
No, I have not.
Well, there is a Friday the 13th movie, Part 5. There's a guy wearing a hockey mask and overalls who kills people, but it's not Jason. It's a vengeful paramedic named Roy who is murdering up a halfway house / mental health facility / I don't know, cabin on Crystal Lake where one of the deranged teenagers murders his apparent son. Yeah, and anyway, that's
So,
all the references to Roy.
would you call him a copycat of Jason Voorhees?
Pretty much, yeah. And the thing is that there's a kid at that facility who killed Jason Voorhees in the previous installment, and so I guess, well, it's never truly established, but you get the sense that Roy's using that as his way to do the killing and have an alibi. It's really bad. I wouldn't recommend you watch it. Listen to our podcast. You learn
All
more
right.
about it. So, but anyway, that's the story on Roy, and you get into it. Let's talk about this film, though. The way they started is we do get Freddy finding Jason. This whole idea of like, look, they made the kids forget me, and there's, being killed's one thing, but being forgotten is a bitch, And I'm like, well, Freddy just said everything every 80s hair metal band feels, and that's why they're still out there. So he's like, I'll find somebody to make him remember Jason. And I wrote this note down because my wife made a great point. She said, why does Jason's hell involve naked women skinny dipping that he can kill? Wouldn't it be like him treading water or something if it was really hell? It's almost like Jason's getting to do what he loves to do in hell.
But my second note, after talking about how cool it was to have a Freddy backstory, still too short, was, gratuitous nudity right off the bat.
Yep, that's the Friday the 13th influence on the film.
Oh, big time. Yeah, because that's the one thing. The Nightmare films were really scarce with the nudity. Like, it was barely spliced in there, It was all about atmospheric weirdness and stuff. And I guess if there's any Friday the 13th influence, you're right. It is the gratuitous sex in this film.
And also possibly the cornfield rave. Later on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that cornfield rave. Just hold that thought for a minute. But I like how Freddy uses the reverse psychology of Friday Part 2 to get the somewhat doesn't look like Betsy Palmer, Mrs. Voorhees, to resurrect Jason. But I did say, not even the dumbest way I've seen Jason resurrected, so I can't really complain about it. But it did give me the note of, what Jason is this? I don't know, because he's, they're pulling him up out of the ground there, so he digs out of a grave, and then begins what I can figure out is at least a 500-mile walk from Crystal Lake to Springwood.
He's fast. My note was, well, at least he knows which Elm Street to go to. I wouldn't want him showing up in my hometown.
Yeah, I know. We flashed to Elm Street and meet our three girls and resident douchebags with the nice new metal soundtrack in the background. And all I could think of, I was like, man, Elm Street looks a lot like Haddonfield for like a few seconds there. Like I mean, they make a point to go, it's 1428 Elm Street. Like they do the whole thing. It's the house or the external of that house again or whatever. But I was like, well, that kind of feels Halloween-y. And then they have a girl named Lori as the main girl.
And we open up with a girl asking for Michael.
Yeah, right?
Or Mike, I think.
Yeah, they're going to bring all of the horror movies in here.
Yeah, but that's so strange.
Why not?
I'm like, why? Well, no, why would you? I mean, Friday the 13th was built as a complete ripoff of Halloween initially. I mean, that's all it was supposed to be. It was just Halloween in the woods. Nightmare on Elm Street has never tried to do Halloween stuff. Like, if anything, it started chasing Hellraiser about halfway through, but it was its own thing.
I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to tip the hat.
Yeah, and that's definitely more of a Friday the 13th kind of reference too. I think it's like they've decided, well, we've got the rights to this, so we may as well pay lip service to it. Plus, maybe Mustafa Akkad will need money, and we'll be able to make that Freddy versus Jason versus Michael Myers movie that nobody wants.
Yeah, well, boy, you talk about the sequel no one would want. Wow.
Actually, I'd always heard it was going to be Michael Myers versus the Leprechaun because of the shared Celtic mythology.
Would watch that.
The Curse of Thorn versus the Three Sneezes and You're Married to Me. I'm down. Only if it's in Ice-T's hood, though, because Busta Rhymes could come back. Maybe even LL, right? We have the whole gang. So we just
I'm down.
Only if LL somehow gets eaten by a shark.
This time. So, like he was supposed to that time. But anyway. So Deep Blue Sea. We're the one making references now. I do love that these teenagers. I guess they're supposed to be teenagers. They all look 25 or older.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to know who Catherine Isabel is in horror ranks. She's in something called Ginger Snaps. Is that something you're familiar with, Ron or Brian?
You've never seen Ginger Snaps?
I have never seen Ginger Snaps. Is that something I should see?
Yes, Jay, that is something you should see. Ginger Snaps, and also I would go ahead and see Ginger Snaps 2, but don't see the third one.
Okay. Well, I'm a bit of a completist, so if there's a third one, I'm sure I'll find it. But okay, well, that's what I'm told she's famous for, and
she's famous for it, and she's actually really good in that movie, unlike this movie.
I've seen her on TV stuff that I thought she was good in, and I didn't recognize her as the Smokey Ho girl from the first 5 minutes of Freddy vs. Jason. Because all she does is all I do is smoke when I drink, but you drink all the time. Well, I'm working on it. And like the first thing she does is like, oh, let me go get more drinks, more smokes. Hey, they're menthols, and let's go upstairs and screw, and then let me get in the shower. You know, I mean, that's her whole thing. So we've had gratuitous everything in the first 7 minutes of this film.
Yeah, even a gratuitous body double.
Yes. And I'll tell you, though, first kill, though, man, Jason just overkills the D-bag boyfriend, Trey. I mean, stabs him through that bed like, I don't know, a dozen times, then folds him in half. I was like, well, that's a Jason kill, all right. I mean, Brian, not knowing the Jason kills, that's straight up Jason MO from like the Kane Hodder Jason, though, not the original Jason. The original Jason would just cut your throat and then move on, but Kane Hodder would annihilate you.
Maybe that's our Jason greatest hits moment, because we get a famous impaling through a bed, a la Kevin Bacon, and then we also get a guy broken in half.
Yep.
That was awesome.
We get a double impalation later.
You never wanted someone murdered and bent in half more than that guy.
Oh, yeah, that dude deserved it, right?
Douchebag.
Yeah, and so that's when you've got to know going in, like right now, you're supposed to root for Jason in this movie. Because Freddy is still a bad guy. Freddy's still the total bad guy. They set up Jason as the kind of the Charles Bronson anti-hero here.
What?
I mean, all he needed was to murder some hipsters on a subway, and it would have been all. No, you didn't see that? You don't get that?
No.
His first kill is the worst guy in the group, and he overkills him?
I don't know.
Well,
I think you're stretched.
They really hammer the point home later in the movie when we get the inside of Jason's head sequence where he's just the little half-naked Corey Feldman looking kid.
Or is the Jason from Part 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in these too. So.
Getting tortured by Freddy.
Right, he gets stabbed with the knife in the brain and all that crap.
Yeah, if you don't have any sympathy for Jason after that, I mean, there's no, you've got no rooting interest in this movie.
Well, I'll tell you now, you can't have any sympathy for the human characters here because they're awful. I mean, look, the acting in the Nightmare films is nothing to, write the Academy about by any means. But on par, it's better than most Friday films, all right? But I want to say that some of the Friday films bury this cast. And there are people in this cast I like. I like Monica Keena. I like Jason Ritter. But they are terrible in this. I mean, and it's probably because they didn't really have a whole lot to work with. And frankly, no one on set cared about them. Like, it was like, yeah, just stand over there and look half naked. And, and scream. That's all you need to do. And you look wounded because you are. And that's kind of it. I mean, it's all about Jason and Freddy, right? But that's a problem because if you're like Brian and you don't lock into the I'm supposed to root for Jason thing, I don't know how the hell you watch the rest of this because it gets really boring.
I mean, you're not rooting for Laurie. You're not rooting for Will. You're definitely not rooting for the movie's third lead, which weirdly is the third lead of Destiny's Child, Kelly Rowland.
Who really likes to curse a lot, apparently. That must have been in her contract. So
I was rooting for Linderman.
The nerd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, but he wasn't even your
I wanted him to score.
No, look, he already had. He said even if you pay for it, it counts. Like, he's not your standard nerd.
I don't care. I wanted him and Kia to get it on.
You wanted him and Destiny's other child to get it on us.
Yeah.
Well, they
The
almost
tension was good.
They almost did.
Yeah, there was definitely some heat there. Yeah.
Yeah, until he bled out. I did like how he served her at the.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
My wife was like, "Ooh, burn." So, yeah, he did get the sick burn in. Which is funny because then Jason gets on fire and murders everyone. But there's nobody to root for that's a main character though. I mean, it's hard to do. I do think this is all set up for this. I get a kick out of the cops though that they're trying to keep that Freddy talk under wraps. They're like, no, don't be saying nothing about that. And what will reveal, I mean, what they learn is that not only did the last time we visited Springwood, Brian, all the parents were out of their minds and holding Ferris wheels for kids that weren't there, and Roseanne and Tom had moved in, and it was weird, right?
Yeah.
And now, more families have moved in, they've cleaned up the town, and they just decided we're just going to drug the hell out of these kids. They put it in the water supply so that they'll forget with Hypnosil, the
return of Hypnosil.
Yeah, you texted me, Hypnosil!
Yes!
And so I was like, I knew you would find that. And then they do that, and the ones that have had contact with Freddy, they just ship them off to Weston Hills, which somehow is still in operation after all of the people that have died there and all the administrators that have been mysteriously murdered. They've still got that place running. So,
well, yeah, because they just fire everyone who goes against what they say.
I guess so, man. But yeah, they've got everybody locked up basically, just trying to keep it down. And
they're all the degenerates that nobody cares about.
Well, that's the truth. They won't let them talk to their friends. They've got what's the guy's name? Will's friend that he breaks out with. Mark. Yeah, that guy who was in Leprechaun Origins, by the way, Brian, and many other things along the way through the years. But he's in there because his brother killed himself and left his younger brother the shaggin' wagon van that he's got later or whatever, the Scooby Mobile they call it. And all of that is going down. All that exposition happens as we're seeing Jason wreak havoc on everybody, because a day after Trey is killed, and do we want to talk about his friend Blake? His friend gets beat out by his dad, right? It just totally cusses him out, has a nightmare, and then wakes up on the porch with the dad's head severed, and then he gets killed by Jason. That was pretty intense.
Well, that guy too. I mean, the whole first scene where they're in there trying to, Kia's trying to hook up Lori with that guy. You just this guy's a complete idiot and a drunk, and so it was let's get him done with soon. And thankfully they did.
Yeah, being a complete idiot and a drunk, he was definitely more of Gibbs' speed. If only her boyfriend had been broken in half earlier.
Right. Well, I mean, I think he was trying. I think that's what he was trying to stay alive for. It's I'm going to get vengeance for you, Trey. And then the unsaid sentence was, and then I'm going to bang your girl. I mean, I really think that's what he was angling for had he survived the next 12 minutes. But he didn't. And I do love that a day later, though, they all go to a rave in the cornfield. Can we just talk about the rave in the cornfield? 'Cause
after saying they didn't want to go.
Right. Everybody at one time or another says, I'm not going to the party. And then I'm going to the party. And not only
to the party.
Not only going to the party, when we meet up with Lori and Kia, they're both already drunk. I mean, these are not your standard good girls in a horror film at all.
Well, no, they established right away that they like to drink, right? At the first party.
We're pretty much introduced to them drinking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they are not, again, they're not your standard issue final girls, which again leads to my theory. They're not supposed to be. Nobody cares. You're not supposed to care about these people at all. You're supposed to only care about which one of these main villains you want to try to get behind in the coming WWE cage match that's going to be the third act of this film. And so,
but if you're not supposed to care about any of these characters, why let the two main ones live to the end?
I think you got to have two humans do something to
but they focus a lot on that whole story, that whole backstory about her relationship with Will and everything else. I mean, they focus a lot on that.
I think Kia sums that up well. You're both 14.
But they come back to the fact that he was shipped off by Laurie's father to the psych ward, and he was trying to communicate with her and this and that. And of course, he shows up and she's all excited again because there's the guy she's been waiting for 4 fucking years.
Yeah. So there's the story though, is that he says he saw her dad, who's a doctor, killing her mother. But later, she gets some sort of dream flash where Freddy was killing her mother. And my question to both of you is, like, which one is real? Did the dad kill the mom and then send the kid away like a good Lifetime movie would be? Or was it really Freddy?
I would say it's Freddy. And I think if you watch the whole scene there, the dad's not actually stabbing her or anything like that. All he saw was blood coming out of the mom and the dad struggling, right? So the dad's probably struggling to get Freddy off. I'm guessing he can see Freddy as well.
I'm going to say the dad killed the mom and that Will is actually crazy, because that way the fact that he waited around for this girl for 4 years and didn't let it go about this girl that he met like at summer camp when he was 14 makes a little more sense to me.
No, I mean, the reason that he cares still after 4 years is because he believes that she's in trouble because her dad murdered her mom, right? So he's worried that she's going to get killed by her dad. And I think that it only fits the narrative if the doctor dad knows about Freddy in the first place and he's trying to help the wife. Freddy kills them. The kid sees the murder happen, so he blames the dad, and the dad then puts him away because he is dreaming about Freddy as well, or I don't know.
I think you're onto something there, Brian. I really do, because that would make sense as to why he's the doctor that's behind the whole let's give the whole town hypnosil, like the good conspiracy theory about chlorine in your water and chemtrails and stuff. Well, he just makes all that happen in Springwood.
Right.
Then I kind of see what you're saying there. That makes sense.
I don't think we should work too hard to try to make sense of the parts of this movie that aren't a French fried monster fighting a giant zombie Roy.
No, you're right. You're right. Because the next thing that happens is the kills that go down. We see Freddy try to kill Blake, and he doesn't have enough strength yet, but he's getting close to it. So he goes after Gibb, who we find out basically passes out drunk at the cornfield party, and appears as her boyfriend. And I did think this was great, because this guy he was a Lifetime monster waiting to be anyway, because he's like, I haven't been dead in a day, and you're already shitbaged. You know? And then he's like,
yeah, he was...
Go meet me in the silo. Don't make me tell you again. I'm like, well, he is an abusive. So...
He was going full Fred Savage there.
Yes, he was. So, wow. If only James Franco could have made an appearance, we'd have had the full, trifecta of Lifetime badness. But no, she follows him through, and we do get another classic Jason kill here, though in a very awkward and weird way. You have the guy with all the glow sticks hanging off of him decides he's going to try to screw the passed out girl, asshole.
Of course.
And that's what he gets what he deserves, because once again, Jason does the thing that we wanted him to do. Kill those motherfuckers. And he stabs both of them. And I love Lori and Kia are like, no, Gibb. Okay. And they just move on. They it's one scene to the next. Literally, they're not even upset about it anymore. So,
well, it's okay.
They're running for their lives, so.
Well, they know Gibb is a werewolf, and she's going to come back because it wasn't like a silver-bladed machete.
We're establishing something here, and I will say this now. I've seen maybe one werewolf movie in my life more than once, and that's Corey Haim's Silver Bullet. And so
I've seen Teen Wolf.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that one too. So I've actually seen Teen Wolf too. So okay. If you want to call those, let me back up. I haven't seen werewolf horror movies that much, so I'm not up on my werewolfness. I did watch a couple of seasons of Teen Wolf when it came back on MTV though. So, but I'm lacking in the Ginger Snaps world, as we've established. So, but I love Jason's kills here. I shouldn't say that, but they are fun because you get the two rave dudes that are getting their ass kicked by Everclear, right? And then they light Jason on fire because that's just what you do to a random person that shows up and turns your friend's head around. That was an abrupt,
motherfucker.
Yeah, that was an abrupt kill though, because literally my wife's sitting next to me. We're watching this, and the head turns, and she's like, "Whoa, what?" Like she didn't see that coming. And I was like, "Well, that's a classic Jason to turn somebody's head off." So I kind of liked it. I liked the flaming machete through the fat dude, and
Yeah, that was good.
all the rando kills, and it's finally beer that puts the fire out on Jason. So,
It's funny because that fat guy has had a really good career, like a movie career, because he was in Watchmen.
I wondered who that was. I thought he was the lead singer from Coheed and Cambria for a minute.
I think he's too fat for that.
Well, the 4 people that got that joke appreciated it. But I mean, no, I mean, I was trying to keep up with the numbers of kills, and I'm like numbers 7 through, I don't know, 34 at the rave. I think Jason kills everybody at the rave, but our friends here.
Yeah, doesn't he just wander around murdering people at the rave?
Pretty much. I mean,
Oh yeah, he slaughters a whole bunch of them, just random, going back and forth, killing them as he's walking.
Can you imagine the news in Springwood? It's like mysterious deaths overtake an entire town of youth again in Springwood.
They got to
Ohio.
find the cornfield first.
Well, that's okay. The children of the corn will take care of those bodies and make sure that he who walks behind the rows gets his appropriate blood sacrifice.
Malachi, who is this dead zombie walking through my field? Anyway, but yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. Who's Linderman's Jay and Silent Bob friend?
I was really thinking that they should have gotten Jason
Mewes. Yeah, why couldn't
Mewes to play that? Yeah.
Maybe they tried and they couldn't. Do you know anything about that, Ron?
I do not, but
Well, I'm sure he was in a drug stupor at that point.
And
Yeah, I
it would
think
have
that was
not
at the-
hurt the performance.
Well,
think
no,
that
but
was
he
at
was
the-
in a bad place.
I think
he probably wouldn't have shown
This was at the point where, this was at the point where he was like in and out of rehab to either kick drugs or die.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, good for him.
Yeah, he wouldn't have shown up.
But yeah, but
Oh,
no,
he might have shown up until he found the closest meth dealer, and then he would have been gone again.
yeah, but that was
at that point he was probably not making his appearances when he was supposed to because he was too high.
true. But that's the obvious reference they're going for here, right? I'm not making that.
Oh,
up.
absolutely.
I mean, he's got the whole look and everything. I'm surprised Kevin Smith didn't sue him for it. So,
Typical stoner.
I mean, really, and again, he's the stoner, but he's got a nerd friend. He does get one of the better lines though. That goalie was pissed. So and it's right. I mean, I thought, well, that's the right tone of humor for this goofy film already. And we get the cop who I know I've seen this guy on some Lifetime stuff, Ron. I can't think of his name. He looks like a lost Busey somewhere, but he already knows who Jason is.
Lachlan Monroe.
Yeah. Yes, I know I've seen that dude.
Deputy Scott Dubs. Oh yeah, he's been on a lot of things.
Oh yeah, I'm a good character actor, and usually in low rent stuff like this. But I like him.
I was really hoping you guys were going to tell me that he was actually from one of the Jason movies because he knew everything about Jason before he said it would have only made sense if he actually was in one.
See,
but he wasn't, huh?
That's what I wanted to know too. No, he's not. But I thought that they missed a chance there to say when I was a kid at camp, I saw Jason. He could have been one of the kids from Part 6 that was had the worst camp counselor ever, right?
It would have
Yeah, I mean, that would have been an easy reference to make, but I don't think that anybody who was associated with this movie bothered to watch any of the Friday the 13th flicks. They just kind of went off of they wrote Jason based on Jason's reputation.
Yes, it's like Jason meta knowledge, yeah.
Right, yeah. And this
too
guy
bad.
This guy definitely would have been age appropriate to be like a one of the kids from one of the kids. I was just gonna say that it looks like they cast every adult role in this film is played by someone from Canada. It seems like.
Well, the whole thing was shot there, right? I mean, it was all shot in Canada, so that was that. So they got it all done there. So I don't know. This is where the movie really starts to just veer off into what are we doing land, because we run around with Will and Lori now, and Kia and Linderman and not Jason Mewes, and the cops telling them what they're going to do to help, and Freddy attacks Lori, and this is where I think they're also putting stakes in the ground. Like, no, we really don't want you to root for Freddy, so we're going to make him as creepy as hell, and he does some weird sexual overtones, and then like her dad shows up and is trying to make out with her, and I'm like, Monica Keena looks genuinely distressed by the two 50-year-old men that just tried to shove their tongue down her throat. And so I wondered if they were like, don't tell her you're going to do that, just go with it. And then she just was like, okay, this is really getting out of hand. So she would later act with Tommy Lee Jones, so she said the trifecta. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Creepy old man.
No, man of the house. So, but yeah.
My thing with where for me where it went off the rails is when Freddy decided to go after Jason, and you knew it was going to happen.
You mean
but
the beginning? Oh, when he attacked him.
No, it wasn't really the beginning. He was using Jason for a long time, and then he finally decides that Jason's taking all the fun away, and he's going to go after him. Right? This is pretty much right after the cornfield scene when he's killing all the kids.
Yeah, we're at the same point. When he becomes the weed worm that takes the hit.
Oh, God, yeah.
That is when I was like, I don't know what movie we're in, but it's not a good one anymore. I was like, oh, yeah. Because that guy then gets the double shot of pink drugs and just shoots Jason up to knock him out, right? Like, that's the whole point. Before he gets chopped in half.
Yeah, and that's one of the many, many questionable special effects sequences in this movie.
Yeah, well, you talk about something that doesn't hold up, like the soundtrack and that scene.
The soundtrack and all the every CGI effect.
Yes. Oh yeah, and when he and Jason start to fight in the dream warehouse thing, and there's all that bouncing off the walls like a ping pong ball.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's Freddy Part 6, like bad crap, right? The puns and all of it. I was like, oh god. You know what? These people don't watch any Friday the 13th movies, but they watched all the damn Nightmare on Elm Street sequels so much that they can reference crap like Hypnosil and that level of Looney Tune stupidity.
I did like the water portion of it, right? Where Jason stops dead right in front of the water, and that's when Freddy realizes, oh, well, you don't like water. I thought that was good. But then just makes it rain. Well, okay. He doesn't like a lot of water, but rain I don't think scares him, does it?
No, I don't think rain would have bothered. Like being drowned is Jason's thing.
Right.
That's a fear for a lot of people, so...
The pouring water makes sense to me, but the making it rain in the dream world was kind of stupid.
I think they had to have some way for him to get the upper hand on Jason, right? Because even if it is a dream world... Physically, when Jason gets near him, all he does is hack him to bits. So, which is what you would think would happen. You know, if he ever got his hands on him, he would break him in half.
But again, that does no good to Freddy in the dream world because Freddy just regrows his hands.
Right, exactly. Which again, very bad CGI. So
when he's not hopping around like a Chinese vampire.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah. So
Ronnie, you did kung fu movies before this.
Yeah, and I was actually wondering why I didn't get more kung fu in it. Like there could have been a lot of you could have had Laurie could have been doing Taibo for all we know. You know, why couldn't we get some of that? So, that's because she's a human character and we don't give a damn about them.
Well, it would have been nice for somebody to pick up the Tommy Jarvis Memorial Kung Fu belt.
That, or we had Rick in Part 4.
Oh, that's right.
So we could have had Rick's son come back. So Parts 4 and 5, but no, we didn't do any of that. So I don't know. I love though that Laurie's idea is we got to take Comatose Jason back to Crystal Lake so you can have home field advantage on Freddy, because she does rip Freddy's skin off coming back out of that dream in the police station. So we established that she
his ear.
Yeah, it is his ear, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got that. So she figures out, I can drag him back through into the real world. So she does like the Flatliners thing. Like, I'm going to go down and then y'all wake me up. Which is, let me lay down.
Which always works.
Yeah, let me lay down and nuzzle next to the 6'7" zombie.
Let's put a whole thing of fucking tranquilizer right in my neck. I'll go out and you'll wake me up, right? I mean, you only had to put 6 or 7 freaking shots in Jason to keep him down for the whole ride.
I'm like,
one won't kill me.
How do they know when to keep giving it to Jason? They just sort of randomly go to Linderman
really
sticking
need to do that much too? I mean, my lord. Jason should be dead with that much trank in him.
Well, Jason must be having some good dreams. He might have had some better naked dreams, you'd think, other than that, because, geez. I mean, that's bad. I mean, 2 Tylenol PMs, and I'm dreaming weird things, so I don't know what in the world Jason's getting into. But I do like the interesting plan there, though, is that we got to get back to Crystal Lake. And I'm going, okay, but, like, they do that within a matter of, like, moments. And as we've already established...
We don't know that, because if they're giving them doses of the tranquilizer on and off, I'm going to assume they're not doing it every 2 minutes, right? I'm going to assume they're doing it every hour or two as they're driving across country. It seems like it's right away, but I think they actually take some time.
But the sun never comes up and goes back down. We never get any established bit of time changing.
So for someone who's not seen Friday the 13th, where in the country is this?
Crystal Lake is in New Jersey, rural New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. Yeah. And Elm Street's in
Ohio.
California. Ohio. So that's not that far. I mean, we're talking maybe
it's 500 miles. Like I looked 500
it up. Miles.
It's about 500 miles. Yeah, that's a good 8-9 hours. That's a long drive.
Yeah.
Not counting
75.
Not counting gas, because you're driving in a van like that, you're going to have to stop and get gas.
Oh, no shit.
And look, the weed guy, well, he's no longer with them, but they're all got contact highs now off of that. They're going to get munchies. Look, there's problems with the whole thing.
With all the coffee they've been drinking, they're going to have to do bathroom stop. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, unless maybe Jason Ritter drove the whole way, because he seems loped out of his skull the whole film too. So maybe he's doing some coke. I don't know. But he's
got some trucker's helper.
Something. Yeah, he's doing something back there. So I wrote down. We talked about did Freddy kill Laurie's mom or something? You guys have talked about that. I think you made a good point on that, Brian. Jason wakes up and he's back in Crystal Lake, right? And they finally get Laurie to wake up, and as she's almost like molested by Freddy, and I'm telling you, like, I got really moments of just uncomfortable sitting there watching that, going like, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to sell us on Freddy is bad. Y'all cannot be on Freddy's side in this. But that just seems so off-putting and so weird, because the Freddy that would have done that was in the early Nightmare on Elm Street films. And this Freddy has
large tongue.
Yeah, this Freddy has been the Part 5 and Part 6 jokester Freddy that didn't do that shit. And that's why it just feels like such whiplash.
Well, like you said, they're doing the greatest hits, right?
I guess, but man, they're going from
Freddy tongue.
It's like classic Kiss going to no makeup Kiss back to classic Kiss. I mean, it's a whiplash, man.
Oh, Kiss.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a sign that they took a bunch of different movies or a bunch of ideas from a bunch of different scripts and like, okay, we're going to keep this part, we're going to keep this part, and no one did a final walkthrough to say, hey, what kind of tone are we going to have for this stupid thing?
Oh, I'm going to tell you who did the walkthrough on the last 15 minutes. Probably Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, because this was ripped straight out of the same writing session as No Holds Barred.
Cocaine filled.
When she brings Freddy back through, I wrote in my notes, it's time for Hell in a Cell with Jason and Freddy, and all I need is somebody to take that footage and just loop some Jim Ross commentary over it for me and throw it on YouTube.
There you go.
Like, I need that to happen. How that hasn't happened in the 13 years since this film has been out is we failed, Internet. We failed.
I would have been awesome.
Now, it is a stunt extravaganza that they go on here. At times bordering on the complete absurd with some of the bouncing around and the
it's a Looney Tunes fight.
Yeah, it is, but then sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just these two guys beating the shit out of each other, and those are the parts that are remotely interesting, when it's actually you get the two actors actually doing stunt stuff together.
Or, trying to.
Trying to, yeah. So, I mean,
Robert Englund does not throw a very good punch.
No, he doesn't. So he really doesn't. But I do like the way they go at each other. The way that he's constantly stabbing at Jason, and Jason's just like slash hack slash throw.
I do like the ironic sentence from Freddy asking Jason why he won't die. I thought that was kind of ironic.
Well, they've both been asked that several times in their own film series.
Exactly. He's a monster like you, and you're asking him why he won't die? Duh.
Yeah, it is a little ridiculous. But he just keeps going. I mean, he's like the Energizer Bunny, this Jason is. He just keeps going. You know, they just keep beating him down. He just keeps getting back up. I really think at some point, like, Kane ripped off at least 4 or 5 years of his entire gimmick in the WWE off the way Jason keeps coming back here. Don't you think so, Brian?
Yeah, I think you're about right. Kane is not one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. So
is he anyone's?
There are people who like him.
Well, people have to like him. He's sold T-shirts and stuff. I've seen people wearing Kane masks and crap. But speaking of professional wrestling, fun fact: there were multiple professional wrestlers in Japan who had these kind of themes. There was a Jason the Terrible. There was a Freddy Krueger wrestler. There was a Leatherface who was actually pretty fun. There was a guy with a Michael Myers gimmick. So, yeah, if you want to see Freddy wrestling Jason, just watch any tape from 1993-ish Japan.
Now, I knew about the Jason the Terrible one. I did not know about the Freddy Krueger one, though.
Yes, and they have both wrestled each other and been a tag team.
Huh.
Do y'all think it was in Kelly Rowland's contract that she gets to talk mad shit before she gets killed at one of these guys? Because that's what I mean. Like, she goes at Freddy and like insults his manhood, and you know she's talking all kinds of crap. I mean, she's seen him hack several of her friends to death at this point. And her saving grace is Jason, who stabs her and throws her into a tree for all of her trouble.
That's one of the weirdest moments of the movie, to me, is how she randomly decides to call Freddy a fag.
Yeah, like when she drops that one, I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's early 2000s. Yeah, that, I wonder what...
I guess that's an insult back then, right?
Yeah, well, that was when you could actually say, film, and put out there. I'm surprised that hasn't been scrubbed from the versions that are out. Really?
God, Ron, you are correct. This is just sick. There is a Jason the Terrible versus Freddy Krueger Japanese wrestling match.
Yeah,
holy
from like
shit.
Wing or IWA Japan, yeah.
1992, Wing. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, send me that. We will link that on the page, folks. If you just want to see it with the episode here, we'll put that. This is
pure gold.
So, it's probably more entertaining than what we've got because, as I wrote, Destiny's other child finally dies, and then it's time. It's time for the showdown on the docks. Yeah.
It took way too long for her to die.
Yes, Kia should have died a long time ago. So
I mean, maybe that's because she's like the only real star in the movie.
I mean, you know, Ritter has had a good career, mostly on television, but he's had a decent enough career. Monica Kino had this moment, and then she's best known now, sadly enough, for being beaten up by Edward Furlong. You know, so she's an abuse survivor. Yes, she's an abuse survivor, basically now, which is sad.
And it's Edward Furlong Terminator.
So, yeah.
That poor girl.
I know, but that's, I mean, she, you know, her star faded quickly after, I mean, this was supposed to be her launch vehicle, and she never really got off the ground after this. So I guess Kelly Rowland is the star of the film in 2003. She would have been a get, I suppose. So does anybody know who she is now? That's the thing. Everyone knows Beyonce. Do you know any of the other two Destiny's Child people?
I was just going to say she's done a whole lot of soundtrack work for a lot of things. So, I mean, she's keeping herself out there as far as being away from the Destiny's Child thing. She has a whole 18 credits to her acting career.
I'm surprised one of them wasn't a Leprechaun film, I'll be honest with you. So
most of them are TV appearances. So.
I can see that. Let me guess. She's probably done a Law and Order and a Criminal Minds somewhere in there.
No, but she's done Empire. That's a given.
That makes sense, yes.
And TV series Girlfriends.
I don't know that one, but okay.
No, me neither.
That was a UPN show.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay.
She's also on Real Husbands of Hollywood.
Well, so she's done reality TV now, too. It's an upgrade.
Yeah.
So, as we were saying, nobody really launched from this to do anything. But we do get Freddy and Jason launched here. Now, there are a couple moments of the fight I want to pull out that I thought were kind of cool. I did like the rebar impalation of Jason. I kind of got an Omen feel off of that. If either of you have ever seen that film and its remake. But
I have the box set.
Oh, well.
Nice.
Bring it on.
I see it.
Next series.
I think that one may be coming down the line now. So, but because there's a Sam Neill in there somewhere. So, it's all for you, Damien. But before we get to that, I did like the rebar impalation for Jason, and I like the fact that Jason beats the holy crap out of Freddy and cuts his arm off and all this other. I mean, he really goes to town on him, and they're locked in like Mortal Kombat when the explosion happens. And I remember thinking to myself on a rewatch of this, is that how this ends? Did they do the Aliens versus Predator Requiem and blow them both up, and that's how we get to the end? And I'd forgotten what happens.
Here's my thing. I thought the visual side of things and the way they were looking to go at it made sense. Jason's afraid of the water. They're going to drown him. Freddy Krueger doesn't like to be burned. They're going to burn him. And then it all set up for this to happen, and they both go in the damn water.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, that does no good because you've got one taken care of with Jason going in the water, but Freddy needs to burn to death. And he's not going to do that in the water. So I was kind of disappointed that they didn't go that route.
And when they have him come back out of the water, it's a shot at first. You don't know which one it is, but it turns out to be Freddy holding Jason's machete with the one arm he's still got left. He's going after Laurie and Will, who, Will's been kind of sidelined for most of this as he got hit in the chops.
He was impaled too.
Yeah, so I mean he's barely alive at this point, and Laurie's backing up, waiting to get hacked, and then out of nowhere, Jason stabs Freddy through with the glove, and I did like the effect of that. It doesn't look great the first stab of it, the CGI of it, but the after effect looks pretty cool. The way Jason kills him with his own arm, because you're right, Jason in the water, that should be it. But he overcomes that fear long enough to go and stab Freddy.
And I like the idea of, if they're not going to burn Freddy, which to me is the ultimate way to kill him, using his own knives against him makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, but then Laurie has to chop his head off and drop a bitch line on it. I mean...
Well, of course.
Which
they gotta have that.
Which they steal and put in the 2010 remake, too. So.
Well, we didn't get nearly enough people saying the word bitch in this movie. So.
We did get a sweet dark meat comment though.
Freddie drops it like every other line. What are you talking about? Freddie says it all the time.
Dark meat.
Well, that was the whole point of me getting to you offline, Jay, before we started recording, to say that this is the bitchinest movie since Bitch the Movie, because you literally don't go a page of this script without someone saying bitch at least once. I guarantee it.
I agree. It is the Freddy greatest hits, and it's the hit that you want them to stop playing, and they just insist on playing it again. I saw a band in concert once that they were on the end of their career, but they had a lot of hits, right? They were playing this thing in Florence at the Handy Fest, right? And they played their big hit, which was their last hit, and they got to the end of their set and they decided, we're just going to do that one again. And I was like, no, it was bad enough the first time. So I left. I was like, no, I'm done. See you, Lone Star. So I don't need to know.
Ouch.
I moved
on. I was gonna guess it was Molly Hatchet, but
nope, it was Lone Star. So
singing Amazed?
Yes, that was the song.
Of course.
Man, it was like
and they blew it?
No, they sounded fine both times. They played it in the middle of the set and then decided we're going to play it again near the end. And I was like, well,
just in case
I'm
people
done.
Didn't hear it the first time.
No one had moved. I'm like, I'm gone. See ya.
Fucking stupid.
I'm done. So, but anyway, we get the showdown on the dock. Laurie chops his head off. They go in the water, and then that's it. And then she and Will slink off through the campsite. And I'm like, I guess you're going to drive back to Ohio and go, well, we lost 4 or 5 people along the way, and we burned a whole damn town down. But we're together
All's good,
now.
though.
My dad's also. Did her dad get killed in all of that melee, or did she just run away from him? I can't remember.
I don't believe he was killed.
I don't think any of the adults were murdered except the cop who got electrocuted.
So how's that conversation go?
Yeah.
When you get home, right?
So, Dad, me, you,
Does
and
Will
Will
get thrown back into the mental?
Me, you, and Will need to work through some issues. Clearly, we need to talk about.
Can we wake up all these people in a coma that you kind of killed with the hypnosil?
Yeah, that was like out of the Andromeda strain all of a sudden too. That part that happens. I'm not sure that wasn't just weed guy's hallucination, but no, that's not the end because we have to have Jason palming the Freddy head that winks at us as the final end because the original ending, which if you haven't seen it, is Will and Laurie about to get it on in bed, and he turns into Freddy all of a sudden and starts to slash her, and then it goes to black, and audiences were, quote, confused by that. And so they decided to do that other thing, and I was like, well, all right. So it's an extra on the DVD. It's a deleted. You can watch it, and it is a weird
I will have to do that because I have the Blu-ray now, thankfully.
It's a weird scene, but you should check it out.
But wouldn't that be perfectly like in key with the ending of the first Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yes, exactly. That all of this was her nightmare, and it's still going on. Yeah, that would be it exactly.
I think they went with a softer version of Freddy still being alive, even though he's just a head.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, so what world are they in? Is that still Crystal Lake? Because it looks kind of dreamy. You know, I mean, if we're to believe the continuity, this is the Jason that goes on to get launched into space. So,
space.
So
everyone's got to go to space. How come Freddy never went to space?
Oh, don't go there. He kind of
don't give him any ideas.
He kind of did with Leprechaun. Might as well have. So, but yeah, I don't know. You know, that's what I'm going to ask. Like, does this make any sense at all? Because I think you're supposed to just say who wins, and I'm like, who cares?
At the end, they're on the same side, right?
Clearly, New Line won because they made $116 million off the third.
Oh yes, they did. That's the amazing part. But I've heard a lot of arguments about Jason wins. No, Freddy wins because he's still alive, and I'm like, guys, nobody wins. Like it's Randy Foster. Nobody wins. It's bad. So there is no winner at the end of this. It is the double count out, if you ask me. But I'm going to ask you two.
It's the dusty finish.
I'm going to ask you though, which one? Who wins? Brian, who do you think wins?
Neither of them. They both walk out as kind of equals.
Ron,
it's my point of view.
Yeah, I'm going to say neither guy goes over, and they both look weaker for the double count out finish.
Yeah, I agree. I think we keep the wrestling metaphor going. Yeah, it is the weak finish, and we've ruined both trajectories in the feud. Thankfully, they never did it again. The people clamored for it. Let's get Freddy versus Jason 2. And look, I liked this in 2003, but I was like, why? What else is there left to do? Do you want to go kill some more random people in Crystal Lake or Springwood? Because I don't think there's anybody left. I mean, it looked like no one was still. Crystal Lake was well stocked for a camp that had no one there, by the way. So if they were planning to open that camp up the next week, well, they're going to have to put that on hold. Hope the insurance company's premium is paid up, because holy cow. I think
that's why they kept threatening to bring Ash in.
Was that it? To bring in the Evil Dead tie-in? That would have been even more awful. Even as fun as Bruce Campbell can be, I don't know. If you sandwich him into this crap, I can't see that being something worth watching.
Well, yeah, because it's like he's gonna take jokes away from Freddy. He's gonna take blood spray scenes away from Jason. So it's just gonna be an unnecessary Seth Rollins run in.
Guys, I think we're at the part of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings. So what are yours for Freddy versus Jason? Ron?
I'm going to go with a medium popcorn. Part of me wants to go small popcorn just because the parts where Freddy and Jason aren't fighting are so bad. But I'm going to go ahead and go with medium. They delay the fight as long as they can, and they drag it out for as long as they can, because that's the thing that people want to see. They try to do some other fun things in the middle, like the weird atmospheric hypnosil coma patients and murdering a lesser Destiny's Child, but it never really quite hangs together. It does kind of feel like a greatest hits album, but like a double CD where the second album is a completely different band. So like you've got your Screamo, and then you've got your Night Ranger. So yeah, medium popcorn, but like lots of kernels, and it's kind of one of those half-empty bags.
Okay, Brian?
I am going to also go with a medium here. I really enjoyed the first, maybe 25, 30 minutes of the movie and before I went off the rails. I think there's potential here, and there's some decent stuff in there. So that's enough that I didn't completely hate the movie. It's not good by any means, but I don't think it's in the small popcorn realm.
I will say this. This film is every bit as bad as any of the bad Friday the 13th sequels and the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. It sinks to the lowest, and it never gets to the highs that either series got. Now, for Friday the 13th, that's not a high bar. That's really one film for the most part. All right? But there's some stuff you could have lived up to with that. Totally short-shrifted. For Nightmare, there's some films in that series that are worth revisiting and seeing. This ain't one of them, guys. Look, if you call this a greatest hits album, it's like if Chicago releases a greatest hits and it's all post Peter Cetera stuff. Like everything before and Terry Kath, we're just going to ignore. We're just going to do all the other stuff. And like one song from the early years. I can't endorse that at all. And I'm surprised both of you gave this a medium popcorn, because I thought y'all were right there in the boat with me. This is small popcorn garbage if I've ever seen it. It's so bad. Now, are there some fun things worth seeing in it? Sure, you can catch those on YouTube in like 7 or 8 minute clips. It is not worth an hour and 40 minutes of your time to watch it under any circumstances. So small popcorn, and no. I'm glad they didn't do it again. I hope they never try to do this again. This is a bad idea. This is why this kind of stuff doesn't work, because Frankenstein and Dracula and all that, maybe one day we'll do all those old Universal films to see what the appeal was and how that works. I don't think that works in modern cinema, modern sensibilities, and it certainly doesn't work with 80s and 90s slasher franchise people. These characters should have never been in the same pile together. There's a reason you spent $6 million and had 18 scripts to show for it and still didn't have a movie out of it, because there wasn't one. And I will hold that from now till forever. So small popcorn for me. That said, guys, I have really enjoyed this extended Shocktober 16, and I'm glad both of you went along for the ride with me. I mean, 21 films we've reviewed and put out here from August through the end of October now.
Pretty wild. That's a lot. That's a lot.
I just don't know what other series that we could possibly make Jay watch for Shocktober. I mean, he's got the Hellraisers and the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
I think we got the big four slashers in, that's for sure.
I mean, are we going to make him do Child's Play movies next?
Oh god!
Please,
am I going to make him watch the 3 Carnosaur movies? You never know.
You never know. Well, I mean, we've teased that Ginger Snaps might happen. Omen. You never know what we're going to come up with.
Oh,
here, so.
If you want to watch a series of crap, well, let's do some Howling movies.
That I've only ever seen the first one, and I understand its sequels are something to behold. So we may reconvene the band, but 2016 ain't over yet, guys. We're going to do another big series because we don't have a lot of time for that. But we've got another Star Wars movie coming out toward the end of the year, so we'll circle around and do that one. But holiday time, we always seem to drag up some kind of Santa monstrosity, so I'm sure Brian has something on the brain. Brian, what are we going to be doing for our horrific Christmas time treat this year?
I believe we're going to do Jack Frost.
Yes, and not the Michael Keaton one, right?
Oh, thank God.
Not the dad comes back as a harmonica playing snowman, but the evil snowman one that has a sequel. So yeah, we're gonna do that one when we've done Bill Goldberg's Santa's Sleigh, and which I've seen referenced in a lot of places now and stuff.
By the way, I recommend that movie.
Have you done Krampus?
We have not done Krampus, and you know what? That might be a fun one to get into as well. We'll see what comes up on the old film strip docket, folks. You never know what'll come out, and then we're already planning some fun stuff for 2017. So, of course,
feel free to reach out on Twitter and Facebook to give us recommendations of good, bad Christmas horror movies.
Yeah, if you got one, yeah, and it's got to be something we can find that legally. So if you've got a good one out there, throw it out there.
Yeah, legally, wink.
You know, oddly enough, I was walking by people the other day that were having a conversation about bad movies and bad effects in movies, and I said, have any of you ever heard of After Last Season? And I converted 3 more. So,
Oh boy.
Yes. Hey, man, we get listeners wherever we can find them. So, folks, we do appreciate your support. If you like the show, do leave us a good review on iTunes. It helps other people find it. And as Ron said, hook up with us on Twitter, Facebook, and let us know what you think. And if you've got ideas, we're always open to them. We may not take requests per se, but if you've got something you're real jonesing about, throw it out there. You know, one of the hosts gets excited about it, we'll certainly consider it. So, for Brian and Ron, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Filmstrip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Filmstrip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.